Okay, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Anansia Leslie-Bailey, and I am your host today for the Therapist Atlas, and we are going to Texas today. We have our special guest. Her name is Lydia Anthony. Today, she's going to be talking about the licensure journey, her process to getting her LPC, which she's going to be discussing in more detail with us today. So let us have a good warm welcome to Lydia. So, first question, Lydia, can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your journey and what it is that you do in Texas?
Absolutely. Well, it is an honor to have me here. No, it's an honor for me to be able to be here with you, Miss Anansa. I so appreciate you having me on your program, and I would love to talk to you more about Texas and the licensure process. So,
Yeah.
my name is Lydia. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas. When someone is a licensed professional counselor, that means they have their master's degree in clinical mental health counseling or a related mental health field, and they have also completed their required 3,000 hours of supervision. So, my journey to becoming a mental health counselor began back in college when I studied psychology. My freshman year, I already knew I wanted to be a therapist. So I graduated in 2018 with my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and then I went to grad school at St. Mary's University and graduated with my Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling in 2020. At that time is when I also received my provisional license, which is called Licensed Professional Counselor Associate. So you can call it your associateship. Started my career off working at a psychiatric hospital, doing group therapy for troubled teens, military personnel, and those struggling with substance misuse. I then transitioned to working at an outpatient clinic, doing group therapy for adults with severe and chronic mental illnesses, such as schizophrenia and bipolar. Then I worked at Cerebral for 2 years, which is an online mental health company. It's very similar to BetterHelp, so you may have heard about Cerebral or seen it before in the advertisements. Now, this past May 2024, which also coincided with my upgrade from associate to full LPC, I opened up my own private practice called Rejoice in the Rain Counseling. Now, this is a
Congratulations. I'm
therapy.
sorry, I have to just jump in and just be like, amazing. First of all, you're transitioning into your LPC full license. Amazing. And you just open up your practice. So big congrats to you on that.
Thank you so much.
I had to
I
just throw that in
appreciate
there.
it.
Of
Thank
course.
you. Yeah, I'm proud of it. I call this my PLC, my baby. It feels like that.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, my private practice, it's a therapeutic space dedicated to helping individuals get back on track in life, especially if they've gone through difficult periods or after sudden change or trauma. Now, my clients generally see me for depression, anxiety and panic attacks, grief and loss, chronic health conditions, and chronic mental health conditions, and trauma. And my philosophy is that a belief things will get better, but even now in the darkness, you can find meaning, inspiration, and beauty, hence, rejoicing in the rain.
That is amazing. And I just love the fact that the population you're working with, it's just so unique in the niche. And it really just sounds like you have so many years of experience that could really go towards helping all of those individuals. So that's beautiful.
Thank
Now, I know you mentioned about the LPC associate license. So I'm going to get into that question. You talked a little bit about it, but let's hone in. What is an LPC associate and how does it differ from being fully licensed in Texas?
Absolutely. So, when you graduate with your master's degree,
Mhm.
You are in this period where you have that experience from grad school. A lot of it is book knowledge, but also you did your internship in grad school. However, that still differs from real life experience. So there is this gap, and in this gap, we have our provisional license with a stipulation that we have an external supervisor. Not the same as a company supervisor, by the way, external supervisor who guides you and mentors you in your clinical journey. So you're going to be with a supervisee group that includes your supervisor and about anywhere like 3 to 10 colleagues. Yeah, supervisor groups are generally, they're not that large, but you are with these people, you are in this journey together to obtain your full license. And so you meet with your supervisor and group of colleagues for 4 hours a month. Now that can be 4 times, that can be 2 times. Um, but the object is that you will have somebody to consult on cases with. You are able to discuss any ethical concerns that come up and obtain resources to help your clients better and to get their guidance and their expertise. So this period is for 3,000 hours. Half of those are direct client hours. The other half are indirect hours, which can be anything from note taking, doing continuous education units, researching anything related to psychology or mental health. And so that whole journey takes around 2 to 3 years on average. It can be done in as soon as 18 months, or it can be more drawn out. So I know people who, spend a couple of years doing their associateship, like 5 or 6 years even. Um, and just to as a clarification, when you have your supervised hours, that does not mean that the supervisor sits in and watches session with you. It just means that they are there to consult with. So I just wanted to clarify that in case people think that it means you record your session or that they are there in session with you. No, absolutely not. You are practicing independently in front of your clients. You just have a supervisor that you are responsible to.
Okay, beautiful. I'm glad that you really cleared that up because for someone that's not in the field and is thinking about that, they may actually assume that the person's going to be in the room. Now, that is a big difference when you are outside of school, because I know sometimes in programs, they do have that the supervisors have the ability of watching students depending on which school you go to. So that can shift when you are outside of school. Now, the other question I have, you mentioned the group um, with group supervision. I know sometimes some regulatory boards are asking for you not to have all your hours in a group setting. So is Texas similar to that, where they're saying, half of your hours are okay to be in a group setting, or are all your hours okay to be in groups? What does that look like?
And when you say the hours, do you mean the actual therapeutic modality, like individual versus group versus family versus couple?
Sorry, let me clarify the supervision hours.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
So, um, we have, yes, it's about 50-50. Don't quote me on that, but so 50% of our supervision hours are 4 hours a month. About two are done maybe a little more than two are done, either as a group
Yeah.
with like all of the supervisees present, or at least above three. And then the others are done one-on-one. So that's either you and the supervisor, or it can also be one other person. So triadic is fine as well. And so that helps you when you have one-on-one, it helps you address any individual concerns that you may not be able to do when you're in the whole supervision group. And then when you're in the whole supervision group, it allows you to hear things from other perspectives that you wouldn't just one-on-one.
Okay, awesome. Now, the other question I have, So before you do end up transitioning into your full license as a licensed professional counselor, right? Um, do you have to take an exam to transition into that role?
So actually, the majority of the requirements are done before you receive your associate license. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so you know how every board has its regulatory exam, and
Yeah.
so us it's called in Texas, the National Certified Counselor Exam, the NCE. You
Yeah.
take that before you receive your associateship, and I would recommend taking it um, either when you are in grad school or right upon graduation because the material is fresh in your mind. So you would do that, and also you would find your supervisor before so your application for your associateship, it includes the NCE, you're having your supervisor, um, you also take a jurisprudence exam, and so
Mm,
that covers more healthcare law, like HIPAA, in other words, private keeping your healthcare information private, treating clients ethically, and so that's a pass fail. In other words, you can take it as often as you want in the same sitting until you pass. So there's no way that you would not pass the jurisprudence exam.
okay.
And then for quality control, you also do a background, print background check. You submit your application. Um, and send in all of that and then soon it can be maybe a couple days to a week if you submit it online that you go from just a master's student to an LPC associate. If you send it in person, it'll take maybe 1 or 2 months, so I would recommend doing it online.
Okay. Wow. So I'm super glad that you provided the specifications for that because when I was getting my RMHCI license in Florida, I didn't have to take my national exam yet. So, but I have to take that exam before I can transition into my full license. So that is good for anyone, interested in practicing in Texas. You got to take your exam before you even get the associate license. So that's different for sure.
And it's different for social workers too, who can also serve as therapists because they will take their exam before they receive their full licensure instead of their provisional licensure. So,
Mhm. Okay. What have you found to be like some of the challenges with that? Like, do you find that um actually do you think there's any challenges at all with having to take your exam before or after?
I
Yeah.
think that is perfect because if you wait too long, then the material will just dissipate.
Yeah.
The exam, it's pretty textbook-like, so, if you have that school experience, then it's all fresh in your mind, but that disappears the more time elapses. So,
Yeah.
I would say that isn't an issue. I would say the only issue that we have is that the licensure process itself, it's kind of confusing to people who are not familiar with it. The website is kind of outdated, so it doesn't really take you by step, the way that and maybe people would be used to in this day and age. And so the way that you can ensure you're following the instructions is you go to this Facebook page. It's called LPC Associates of Texas, and they have a how-to guide that is easy to follow. You download that, and that'll take you from being a master's student to LPC associate to fully licensed. Um, Very simple, easy to read, so highly recommend that one. If any of you guys are in Texas and you're wanting to get your license but don't know where to start.
Hey, that is awesome. Thank you for the insight on the Facebook group. Yeah, so anybody that's interested in getting licensed in any, country, so US or Canada, definitely see if there's a Facebook group out there because you can have some of your questions answered. So thank you for dropping that gem.
Thank
Now, I guess what advice would you give someone that is just starting this process?
Okay, at what point are they starting at?
So let's say they're just now getting into this field. What advice would you give someone?
Would you say they are in before grad school, after grad school?
Let's say before they start grad school and then work your way.
Okay, okay. Um, what I would say is to examine your motivation for going into this field. It will be difficult at times, and you need like a certain disposition to be present and empathetic with your clients and to act ethically and to, be able to really help them through their trauma, through their grief, through their diagnoses. Um, I would say that it's good to keep an open mind, and you may have an idea of what kind of population you would like to work with. Some people are adamant that they would like to work with kids or teens, or others are adamant they would like to work with first responders or those with, I don't know, let's say severe mental illnesses. Being in grad school will give you that opportunity to try out different internship sites. And in doing so, you can discover if you like this population, if you want to continue working with them, or if you would rather try something else. Um, Definitely allow yourself to be challenged. Establish connections with your professors and with your fellow colleagues, as they will be good references for you. Let me see what else. I would say to just enjoy this journey more than anything. Just enjoy the journey, make friends and make this time worth it for you.
You give amazing advice and you're spot on, especially with like the practicum of an internship, trying the thing that you are interested in, right? Because I remember doing mine and I was like, I am so interested in working with this population. And I did it and I was like, never mind. So, yeah, definitely use that as an opportunity to just, explore and see what you prefer. Now,
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, and so you have 3 semesters to do your internship, and you can do more than one site per semester. So I would say mix it up. Try something that you generally wouldn't do, and you may fall in love with it.
absolutely. Now, for someone that is just now completed grad school, what would be your advice for starting this process?
My advice is do not wait. The longer you wait, the more that textbook knowledge will go away, the easier it'll be to fall into stagnation and to put off the licensure process. I would say, maybe take a month or two off, have, some time to recuperate. You just graduated from a rigorous program, and then schedule your NCE, find a supervisor, send that application in, and start working in the field.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. What are some of the challenges you face during your licensure process in Texas?
Um, I would say that when you are an LPC associate, your experience is not easy. There are agencies, workplaces that doubts your expertise, and so they will pay you, underpay you substantially. For example, I worked at an outpatient clinic and they were paying me $12 an hour. I know that it's different in the currency is different in Canada, but just if you convert it, this is you if you work at Chick-fil-A, you earn more. If you work at the grocery store, you earn more.
Yeah, that is low. I don't think I've heard any pay that low for mental health before. Oh my, how much did you, I have to really process this. How much did you say it was again?
$12 an hour, and this is an outpatient clinic. You are working with clients who are actively in psychosis, seeing and hearing
Oh
things,
my
and
God.
suicidal.
Oh my God. I gotta go find the conversion rate because I'm wondering if that is like even $20 in Canadian. Like I have to, I'm like processing this right now. Like I'm still in so much shock. So how many years were you doing that for essentially?
So that me and my colleague Cynthia, we were actually at that same place
Mhm.
when we were interns, and so that it didn't matter. I mean, interns unfortunately in grad school do not get paid, so we really enjoyed that place. It was wonderful. We couldn't have said any more positive things about it. It was incredible. But then that was like 2 years after, they got a new management, and so let's say they were bought and funded by the corporation. And because of that, things did not it was not the same culture. And then coupled with getting only $12 an hour, Cynthia and I decided to part ways after 5 months. So for us it was more of a contract job than a job that you settle into.
Okay. That is really interesting. And I looked at the conversion rate and it's saying $17 in Canadian. So yeah, that is really difficult to make a living off of. And that's when you're just coming out of, that's when you're just now transitioning into your associate license, right?
Yes, this is a huge problem. They will underpay and overwork you. Now, this can also be a fact if you are fully licensed, but if you are fully licensed, you have a lot more opportunities. You can take insurance, you
Mhm.
charge a higher rate per hour, and people will take that rate seriously,
Yeah.
clients. But if you are an associate, you're pretty much you don't have the experience and the business knowledge yet to start off with a private practice unless you invest a lot of time and energy into that. So, I mean, yes, you can have a private practice as an associate, but it's still difficult to do so. You're unable to take insurance, and the workplaces will pay you less than a fully licensed therapist. And the problem is also that the work structure, a lot of them are contract jobs.
Mhm.
So that means you will not have benefits. And the jobs that do are full time are usually at an agency, but then you are overworked. So people have horror stories of like, I've been seeing 40 or 60 clients in a week.
Yeah. And you're dealing with patients that are inpatient clients too. That is, yeah. Okay. So, the next thing I want to ask you, how was it getting supervision? Like, did you find any challenges with that? Like, especially if you're talking about, you're having like 40 clients at times. Did you find it difficult finding a supervisor, finding that support that you need? What was that like?
Yeah, good question. So I personally didn't work at an agency full time where I did the 40, 60 out clients per week. But I did work at a psychiatric hospital, which was stressful in and of itself. But the supervision was tremendous. My supervisor, Dr. Bergen, he was very helpful.
Ah, amazing.
And I think what I liked most about his approach was he was just straightforward. He didn't sugarcoat things. He didn't when you asked for advice, he just told you flat out the answer. And I think, that is sometimes as an associate, you just need to know what is ethical, what isn't, what is in the law, what isn't. It's not a matter of, I think it's not a matter of opinion. This is the clear-cut fact.
Okay.
So it was also logical and provided good evidence for all of his claims and his guidance. So I really did appreciate that.
Okay. And you said, what was his name? Dr. What was it?
Yes, Dr. Edwin Bergen.
Okay. Does he still take on any supervisees?
I actually think that he is going into retirement soon. So if he has supervisees, he's of course going to continue with them. But I do not think he is actively searching for new for new supervisees.
He's probably done. He's given his all already. So
Yeah, it's been in the field a long, long time, many multiple roles,
yeah,
from clinician to professor to supervisor, and he was also in the military prior.
beautiful. So I had to transition the questions on my phone for some reason. As I talked about earlier, my questions weren't popping up on my computer for some reason.
Okay.
So, let me see. Which question do we kind of ask that? Okay. What are the typical costs associated with supervision in Texas?
Yes, the low end can be around $200 per month. The
Hold on,
high
wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. You said you said low end? I feel like you're just dropping so many like reality checks on me right now. Like
ex
$200 an hour US?
no,
Low?
no, no, sorry, per month.
Oh, okay. I thought you're saying per hour. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, per month. Okay. So what would that be like then? I guess if you're saying like per hour, how much do people usually charge for supervision?
So it is required to do 4 hours of supervision per month in Texas.
Mhm.
Usually the supervisors, because of that requirement, will just charge by the month. And so
Uh,
if you do
uh,
200 per month, that will be around $50 per hour, or the high end is 400 or $500 a month. And so that broken down would be a lot more per hour. So
okay. That makes a lot of sense then, because I was like, oh my gosh. But okay, $50 is not bad if you're doing it per week. And you said it was like what, $400 for the month?
for mine, my supervisor charged only $200 for the month.
Okay. That's not bad. That's not bad.
And the best thing is, when I worked at Cerebral, I
Mhm.
was there for 2 years. They actually covered my supervision. So it was only for a couple of months when I was in the psychiatric hospital and outpatient that I had
Mhm.
to pay the 200 per month. All the other months, Cerebral covered it. So thank you, Cerebral. And for
Shout out
those
to Cerebral.
Yes, and for those in Texas who are watching, um, see if your workplace is able to cover supervision for you. Or also just consider the fact that supervision is an expense. It's tax deductible if you are a 1099 contractor, self-employed. But just keep that in the back of your mind, because as an associate, unfortunately, you will be. No, I don't want to say that. I say the tendency is that you will fall into the trap of being overworked, underpaid, and having to spend a lot of money on um things like courses, just the whole licensure fees,
Yeah,
even the
yeah,
supervision. So
yeah.
keep those finances in mind. And
It's good
yeah.
for sure. The other question too I want to ask you about is the exam cost as well for the NCE. How much was that exam?
I don't know exactly, but it was maybe $150,
Yeah.
200.
Okay. Okay.
That's just the exam. Then you have to pay for the license. That's also like 200 or $300.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so that means you have to pay for the license to get the associate license, and then now to transfer, you have to pay for that too to get the full
Did I
license.
pay? I can't remember if I paid for that. I was looking back earlier when I
Yeah.
was doing my taxes to see what that expense was, and I couldn't find anything, but I don't know. But I know that for associateship, yes, there you do have to pay for the license.
Yeah. And for everyone out there, if you're not 100% sure, you can always check out the Texas Licensure Board if you need further clarification. So I encourage you to do that. I will drop the link in the bio and the description, I guess, with all that information. Okay. So the other question I had, it was in relation to the exam itself. So the NCE. I've heard that it's very similar to the CPCE. Do you have, when you were done school, did you have to take the CPCE exam as well as the NCE?
The CPCE.
I think
Oh,
comprehensive counseling exam or something like that. So maybe Texas doesn't have that because so for my program in Florida, and I don't know if it's like a K-CREP like requirement or something, but in order for us to graduate, we had to take the CPCE. And then we have our separate state licensure board after we get our RMHCI. So I guess it wouldn't really make sense for you guys needing to take the CPCE if you guys need to take sorry, not take the CPCE. No, the
yes,
NC.
to clarify,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
CPCE, it's your comprehensive exam.
Yeah.
That's actually what you take in the graduate school program to
Yeah.
graduate. So you would already have completed that upon graduation. And then the NCE is different. So you take that. You can also take it in grad school. But I mean, I took it when I graduated after.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that both exams are similar? Because I've been hearing that the CPCE, that exam you take before you graduate, is very similar to the NCE.
I think it depends, maybe. Well, I mean, I think that the CPC is a standardized test too, but no, the CPCE was a lot harder than the NCE. I mean, I barely passed the CPCE, and I feel I was a very, very studious. I studied a lot. I barely passed, but then the NCE, I passed that with flying colors. And
Yeah.
all of us, we said the same thing, like, wow, this comprehensive exam, that was a whole new level of difficult.
It really was. I was blessed to pass on the first try. Yeah, I also took the NCHME. I took it maybe a few months after I was done the program. And you are so right. Anyone that is looking to take their national exams, any exam after they're done school, it's better to do it when you still have all that content fresh in your mind. Because
Oh,
I
yeah.
can imagine taking it after. Because what happens is that when you are practicing, you tend to hone in on a specific theory or approach, and you forget everything else around you, right? when you take when you take the exam, you're going to have to study every single thing again. So when you're in school, you have everything fresh. But if you're practicing and you're honing in on, let's say, trauma, and you're only focused on psychodynamic, then you're forgetting all the other content that you learn. So definitely, if you can, take it earlier.
Oh, yes. Agreed.
Yes. Okay, so the next question, can you share a pivotal moment or a lesson from your journey that you think others could benefit from?
That's a very good question. Can this be when you are an LPC associate or when you're in grad school?
Any pivotal moment that you feel like is important to share. You can talk about both. You can even talk about the L when you're fully licensed too.
Yes, I think definitely. So here's the thing. I know that my second year in the counseling program, I took an elective. It was called the grief and loss, exploring that and also the grief counseling. And man, it was very intense. I was bawling my eyes out in the bathroom,
Mm.
and me and my friend were both, a lot of us were distracting ourselves. Like I had to somehow distract myself. The content was so painful to listen to. But now I am a grief counselor and I can manage the same triggers and keep a straight face in session, be fully present with them. Um, I mean, yes, there may be times when after session I have a cry about what happened, but that's like once in a blue moon. So I just like to see, I'm just like amazed at that development and for anyone else as well. You know, they are in grad school and they may feel triggered, they may find the material very difficult, but if they just trust the process and continue going, like they will see the the fruits of their labor. They will be able to be present with their clients and to really help them, and they will be, be a stronger clinician.
Mhm. Oh my goodness. And I love that you took that course willingly. I find that some programs they don't even offer that. Like unfortunately, my program didn't offer it. Not I love my school though. Go Sharks. But we didn't have that. And that's something that I think is so valuable because a lot of clients that you're working with they're going through some form of loss. So, absolutely, like we have to figure out how does that impact us, and the fact that you just seen that growth from when you first got into the course and then till now and learning how to support yourself and be present with your clients, I think that is for sure an amazing moment that you just shared. So, thank you for that.
And I thought I would never want to see grief clients, but now I love seeing grief clients.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. So that just opened up a whole like can of worms for you. You're just like, ah, you got what you needed and you're like, this is it. Love that. Okay. So the other question I have for you, in your experience, how does the mental health field in Texas compare to other states, if applicable?
So I think that in Texas there are a lot of mental health opportunities, and it's a big state, so I think there is probably mental health resources around, every city, small or major. Um, I would say that the issue is that there are certain state-funded programs like psychiatric hospitals, and
Mhm,
maybe those for those struggling with substance misuse. Now, those programs, depending on where the funding comes from, they can be severely neglectful of their patients. So, for example, the psychiatric hospital I worked in, it was state funded. I don't know how much state funding it got, but it was it was there was insurance fraud going on,
mhm,
patient neglect. There was not enough staff.
mhm.
Patients didn't have necessities.
Yeah. So do you find that mental health in Texas, are people open to exploring that in Texas, or do you feel like there's still that stigma present and even that awareness that these things are happening?
There is still stigma, but because of that, so many more people are seeking services because they know that they need the help and they will not receive it from their family.
Mhm. Okay. And do you feel like there are other challenges regarding the access to resources? I know you said like Texas is a huge state. Um, but like, you probably have like rural areas and more like populated areas. Do you find that resources are a little bit, dependent on that location?
Absolutely. It's location dependent for sure. Now, ever since the COVID lockdown, there was a boom in the online mental health industry. So that takes the the services and brings them to people in remote areas.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. I love to hear that because, for people back in the day, like if you had to do it in person, it would be hard to travel all the way there for appointments and you have to factor in weather. How often does the weather impact you? Like, I want to kind of talk about your private practice as well, but do you find that Texas weather turbulent? Do you find it to be a little bit, wonky at times that it impacts your private practice?
So it doesn't impact my private practice that much because I'm all virtual and I have a full caseload virtual, but
Oh,
that means
congrats on that.
there is ever an outage. It may not even be weather. It may just be sometimes they do some construction around, they hit they hit something and then the Wi-Fi is out.
Yeah.
Or if there really was severe weather, then yes, that would impact the services. But it would also impact it if you were in person, even more so.
Okay, that is true. That is true. So let's hone in on your private practice journey. So, were you able to start a private practice with your LPCA, or was that only when you got fully licensed?
So LPC-Associates absolutely can start a private practice. They just have to disclose that they are an associate and still under supervision on their website and their marketing. And so I got fully licensed end of April 2024, but I started my private practice business plan probably in February, so like 2, 3 months ahead of time. And I dedicated a lot of time to forming my private practice, both how it would be informed clinically and also from the business perspective. And so, because of that work I put in creating that solid business plan, right when I got fully licensed, I was also able to open up my private practice. And so that was end of April, let's say just May 1st, just as a reference point.
Okay. How long did it take for you to get back everything from the licensure board? Like, did you find it the waiting time was pretty extensive, or was it a smooth process for you?
Oh, 48 hours.
That's fast. CRPO, I'm calling out the Ontario licensure.
Yes, so
Yeah,
as I guess as archaic as their website is,
yeah,
you can submit everything electronically, and so they will license you in the same week. And even if you have some outstanding documents, you can submit those via email.
yeah,
Now, however, if you do submit things paper the old-fashioned way, yes, it's going to take a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 months. It's
yeah.
very backlogged.
Okay, okay. But I will say, like, even with the paper stuff, it's still faster than Ontario, Canada, because yeah, it takes a very long time to get all your things in. Like, when did I?
How
Yeah,
long?
maybe I would say like it takes between 4 to 6 months before you get everything back. Yeah. And then to transfer your license. I'm knowing people right now that are like waiting months to hear back with anything. So
Gosh, that would drive us crazy.
can't practice when you come out of school, like a lot of people want that license before you can practice. So people come out and they're literally just waiting before they can start a job. It's brutal. Yes, it's brutal. So this is good to know. Anybody that is interested in moving to Texas,
Oh,
times are
absolutely.
good. Okay. So back to your private practice though. What do you feel really worked for you in terms of marketing yourself and putting yourself out there? What worked?
Yes, so I would say the first thing you need is a strong vision of what you want to achieve in your private practice. Some people call that their niche, their vision, their mission. So I think it all starts with, something that you can visualize.
Mhm.
And that can be a specific logo. That can be a catchphrase that you hear, just something that will make you stand out and represents what you want to, like your message to the mental health world. So, I guess for me, I always like the idea of, something, calm in the storm. And so it went from my original idea was solace in the storm, but that
Mhm.
was a little complicated. So I went to rejoice in the rain, and I could just visualize, the rain washing away pain, dancing in the rain, as in even when, things are bad, you can still find happiness. And I kind of just at that point already saw like this color scheme. I mean, it evolved a couple of times, but now even now, um, the brand has evolved the past couple of weeks into more of a clinic vibe. So it's I know people like when you look at a website, right? They give you different vibes. And
Yeah.
so I always like the clinical vibe, neuro neuropsychology, neurobiology. I always was intrigued by that. And so that's kind of what I want to emphasize is the scientific underpinnings of mental health. And so I would say it starts with the vision, the idea, the niche. Then you need a business plan. If you do not have a business plan, then you do not have a business. That is your skeleton. That is your structure. The way I got my business plan, I used a course. It was called 30 Days to Private Practice by Blaine Hummel. And it's just an easy Google search, Blaine Hummel, 30 Days to Private Practice. Very helpful. I also had to do some of my own research, but a lot of it did come from the course. Next step is you have to make a website. That really helped with marketing. Website is it's your virtual house. And so it makes a good first impression on clients. I like marketing there. Also, directories. Market yourself on directories. That can be Psychology Today, that can be therapist.com, Therapy Den. You can also have some partnerships with referral sources like Growth Therapy, Headway, Alma. I know Growth Therapy, Headway, and Alma are all billing companies, and they are also referral sources. More so Growth Therapy and Alma than Headway, but they will also send clients your way if you have a partnership with them, and use them as their billing company for insurance.
Yes, yes, I've heard that too. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about too, I know that there's a lot of clinicians out there that have been mentioning Psychology Today, and right now they're expressing concerns around the referrals coming from Psychology Today. Have you had any experience with a decline in the amount of clients that you do get from Psychology Today, or do you feel like, where you are at, it's still a good referral source?
No, I don't think it's a very good referral source right now. I get a client once in a blue moon, but
Mhm.
I generally just have it so that I have my online presence and it's a good backlink.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I've been hearing it from other clinicians. I will even say the same thing too. You'll get like maybe one person contact you for like out of the month or so. But it really just depends on where you are at as well, right? So your location and all of that. Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more question before we tie everything in. Let me go in my little question section here. I want to give you a good one.
Yay.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. What changes, if any, would you like to see in the Texas licensure process?
What changes would I like to see? I think what would solve many issues is if they updated their website to one that's more user-friendly and that they could outline the steps in a way where it's interactive and people know just from going on the website what the step is.
Yeah.
Maybe creating a more usable portal.
Okay. Beautiful. So we are going to, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. It's 5:53. Let me ask you one more question.
I appreciate it.
And yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. We got time here. Okay. Hmm. What legacy or impact do you hope to leave in the mental health community?
Oh, I love that one. Let me see.
Let me end it with that. That's the banger.
Uh, yes, for sure. I think the legacy I want to leave is that of a therapist who really cares about their clients, who goes the extra mile for the clients, and maybe I think, helps the client find solutions to their issues. And if there are not any solutions, helps them cope with the uncertainty. Um, Maybe the legacy of creating lasting change in the life of the client. Maybe something that they can look back on and say, this therapy journey was helpful. It gave me a lot to consider, even if it didn't solve a problem, their original problem, because there are a lot of things outside of our control, that it gives them a path forward, some hope, some inspiration. And also, there was a time when I really struggled with my mental health, which inspired to me to go into the mental health field in the first place. Um, Particularly summer 2018 was a my anxiety took a turn for the worst. And I did I one of my coping skills was researching coping skills, researching nutritional psychology and anything related to mental health. I That really opened my eyes and it made me realize this is why I want to be a therapist. So also, if you are struggling, you receive your help and you can help yourself and then you can help others.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I will say, like, a lot of therapists have their own origin story um, in terms of the battles they also face with mental health, which brought them to this field in the first place. And just to hear you be so open and sharing that journey with us, it really um, highlights who you are and why you chose the field that you're in, and even the population that you work with, too. So I think, yeah, Texas is lucky to have you as a therapist.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. So we are going to end our interview here. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Lydia, for taking the time to talk to all of us about your licensure journey and even to support all the other mental health clinicians out there and even aspiring therapists, just giving them information and insight on this process because I learned a lot about Texas. Yeehaw. All right, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful evening. And yes, looking forward to our next
Miss
episode.
Ananta, and for attending, Miss Jennifer. And yes, whatever challenges you were facing, whether that's personal or in the licensure process, just know that you can reach out for support if you are in Texas. There's my Instagram handle. Send me a message and I will
Yeah.
be happy to support you.
I'm going to put all your information in the description as well. So that way, anyone that has those questions, for sure, reach out to Lydia. She is here to support. And if you are a client that is seeking therapy and you're in Texas, definitely reach out to Lydia. She is amazing. I'm out here choking too. I'm human, guys. So yes, reach out. Who wants to end the show? Because I'm choking. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here now because I need some water. Yeah, reach out to her. She got you. All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.